Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. Kyle Gibson is doing his pitching thing. He signed with the Baltimore Orioles. So, along with Lance Lynn today, we have Cardinals Hall of Famer Matt Holliday. So that means Lynn and Holliday together. It also means it's going to be a long day for me because both of these guys have made careers of abusing me. And since we've also had some technical issues to start, they're going to have a field day.
Some.
So let's get right to it. Now we don't have a researcher budget on serving it up yet. So I was trying to look up. You guys never faced each other, pitcher versus batter, correct?
Not that I
No, I
recall.
don't think so.
Because on one of the AI, because I was looking through all the stat stuff, and then I tried AI, and one of them tried. I don't know if it was like LB. I don't know. It was some kind of chat and some kind of AI, and it said that Holiday homered off Lance Lynn in a spring training game, and then of course I couldn't find that either. But I want to ask you about being teammates. So Lance, what are your recollections about Matt Holiday, the teammate?
It was awesome to be honest with you. When you look back at well, for me, is my younger days, having someone like him in the clubhouse with me, learned a lot from him. Not only the things that he did on the field, but the way he took care of things off the field, whether it was his family, his body, all around the things that he would do. Was a great guy to look up to as a professional athlete, as a professional that had a wife and kids and stuff like that. So we always had a great time together. He taught me a lot. He always bought the steak dinner, so that was great too. But he helped me go to where I'm at in my career, where I took care of the guys below me too. So he taught me how to pass it down, and it was great to have that mentor.
And Matt, what about your view as Lance? Because I think he's come full circle because as a young Lance Lynn, he was rogue. And I'm sure that Matt Holliday had to put him in his place a little bit.
You know, I think the one thing about Lance that I think everybody respected and loved, even from the first day that we played together, was his tenacity on the mound, his competitiveness, I guess, that dog inside that I sometimes and watch a lot of amateur baseball and college baseball and even just watching minor league or even some major league baseball. There's a competitive element that comes from the inside that is a necessity if you want to be great at baseball, and sometimes that is just as important as the physical ability. And so I think that was something, early on, that, man, everyone in the organization and on the team were certainly recognized in Lance, and you want him out on the mound in big spots, and he showed that early in his career. So I think that was the one thing that early on was the impression. Obviously, we know how funny he is and fun in the clubhouse and always up for a good practical joke, which as I'm the same, so I always appreciate somebody who also enjoys a good time. So it's been fun to watch his career and the maturation process and who he's become as a husband and a father, and taking care of the young guys. I think that that's something in the game that maybe the powers that be are not recognizing as important as maybe they should, or that used to be recognized as something that was crucial. When you start talking about teaching young players how to be pros, teaching young players how to take care of themselves, and sort of that. I think, and even talking to some of the managers and players, I think that there's a missing, there can be a missing respect for guys that have come before them and guys that have played the game for a long time, to help young players understand what it takes to be good and what it takes to be a pro, and how to take care of guys. And like Lance talked about, taking them out to dinner, and passing that down, and then they in turn to pass it down to the next generation. And I think some of that's missing. I mean, Lance is obviously still playing, and he would know better than I, but in the last few years, just kind of talking to people, it seems like that element might be missing a little bit.
Yeah, Lance is all grown up and he's all grown up now. But back in the day, there were times, and again, I'm around the clubhouse, I'm not in it. I don't necessarily report on the negative stuff, but Lance kind of was his own guy and didn't necessarily buy into everything that was being preached about the Cardinal Way. Come on, that I think that's a fair assessment. Lance, am I wrong on that?
I had an unrestricted me, if that's what you're asking. Uh, I think Matt would say that I always listen, but I wasn't always going to let you know right away that it clicked. So I was going to make you earn it a little bit, and I wasn't going to go right into the company line right away. But I'll eventually find my way back. I wasn't on my own island, but I'd find my way somewhere in between and have a little bit of it my way.
So I want to ask you this about Holliday too,
Wait. So
because
yeah,
when
I would say
oh,
that was one of the things that made Lance who he is, and what he, that allows him to still be a really good pitcher. I mean, you have to have confidence in yourself and what you're doing, and there's some negative to that trait. It can be that you're a little bit stubborn and a little bit kind of I got this mentality figured out, and sometimes it takes a Chris Carpenter and some of these guys that have a little bit of edge to them to tell Lance that, hey, get your crap together. um and so I think that that's part of the what makes him great, and like all the things, what makes us great also has a side that can be a little bit dark or negative. And so I think that that's something that kind of you have to, as you mature, you try to take that negative part of what makes you great and sort of dial it in and turn it into something positive. So I don't we all had, especially as young players, we all had a side of us that needed tweaking and needed, and I think that's what I was talking about. Like, you need veteran guys to be able to go, hey, dummy, like, let me help you. Let me take what you're really good at and help get some of the you know just kind of help you with some of the things that maybe you don't have figured out. And I think that that's sometimes for us as prideful pro athletes, it's hard to swallow. But for me, I had guys like Todd Green and Mark Sweeney and some of these guys that they take you to lunch, and then they'd tell you, hey, that's not how we do it, or hey, you're not as good as you think you are, just things like that. So it's I think that's one of the things that I loved about having veteran players as a young player, and one of the things that I loved about being a veteran player with young players. And I think that's something that I would, if I ever was involved with an organization, I think that's something that I would really try to make sure that people respect in the front office, and maybe sometimes the guys that have never been in the clubhouse, that they would understand that that's a real thing that can actually help your team.
one of the things about you, Matt, that I think was a misnomer, and maybe you've heard some of this, but they used to say Matt Holliday doesn't say much. He leads by example, but he's not the kind of guy. I was like, you've never been in the clubhouse. That guy wears people out. He doesn't shut up. So, Lance, I'm going to give you this chance to debunk that, because Matt Holliday didn't love talking to the media. I didn't dislike the media, but just hated talking about himself. But that guy was on the young guys like white on rice, wasn't he?
I say on him. He made sure that when you did something wrong, he wouldn't belittle you or make you feel small. He would be like, "Hey, that's just not right. Let's do it this way," or "Hey, let's find another way to accomplish that without doing it the wrong way." Like you said, the media wise and stuff like that, I took a little bit from him in my career because I'm not here to talk about myself and build myself up, and Matt wasn't like that either. He was here to play baseball, help his team win, be a good teammate, and be a good person. And it doesn't involve telling the media everything that they want to know, because they don't need to know everything that's going on. And Matt wasn't going to let you in on it. And I was very similar in that. We're going to have our moments where we're going to have fun and do all that. But day to day, what we're thinking, how we're going about our business is none of your business. It's for us and our teammates, and making ourselves the best team possible. And that's what he was all about.
See, I think you're sugarcoating it a little,
So
if I
I
may.
mean, look, I've had this problem, like, with, and I think that if and I don't know if you guys are following, I know it's a rival radio show, Jim, but the morning after had Ollie on during spring training, and he came on and he was Ollie, and he read mean tweets, which I thought was hilarious. And he let him. He was sat there for 30 minutes and kind of was himself. And people were like, "Oh, I like Ollie. Oh, Ollie's not a bad guy. Oh, Ollie's not this. Ollie's cool. Ollie's this that." And I'm like, how do people think they can get personality, they can pick up on who people are based on what, 2 minutes after the game, when you guys are asking Ollie why he didn't bunt, or why he brought this pitcher in, or why he brought that guy in, or what he's doing after a loss, like, and then they think, well, and then they typecast who these people are. So you tell me that me based on a couple minutes in the clubhouse after a game, when I mean, we've answered the same question 6 times, and you keep asking these, and then somebody comes over because he was interviewing somebody else, and they ask a question that you just answered, and you're like, I mean, really? Like, I just answered that. And so I think that there's this perception that people can get to know people on a like, oh, I know exactly how Matt Holliday is in the clubhouse based on the four questions that six reporters asked after a game. And so I think that that's like the misconception of like, oh, well, I can identify who the leaders of the team are based on their post-game interview and their play on the field. Like, that's actually not true. I mean, you know a little bit, Jim, just because you got to be around it, but it's day to day. We spend so much time together. We spend hours on hours. So for you to get a full scope of what's going on in the clubhouse and who Lance Lynn or Matt Holliday are as people, and whether they're funny or jovial, or they talk a lot or they don't talk much, or they're quiet or they're loud, it's impossible to know. Like, unless you actually get to spend time with people inside that environment, you would never know. If you went back through all of our teammates when we played together and tried to depict who they were, and based on their interview, it would be 99% wrong. And so I think that that's something that in pro sports, and now with social media, maybe people get the inside, and you got a lot more documentaries going on where they're covering people on a day-to-day basis. So people are getting a little bit more insight on who people are. But trying to figure out who somebody is based on a 30-second clip after a game on their response to the question that you just answered for the fourth straight time is not a good way to pick up on who people are.
I think that's
I
fair.
think that I think that goes both ways too, because some people think that there's guys that talk to the media all the time and do all this, and they think they're the leaders of the clubhouse and they're great people and this and that, and you're like, man, I haven't seen that guy outside of the game or when he's talking to
Mm-hmm.
the media in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a the game's weird like that. You're like, oh, this guy's obviously leading, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
this guy doesn't even know half the team's name.
Yeah.
There's both ways that go with that for
Yeah.
sure.
That's great. I did want to point out though, because you were saying that that Matt treated all the young guys great, and he did for the most part. I know what he did for a lot of the young guys, but one time that fella Matt Adams, I wanted to do an interview with him, and he said, "Hey, can we do it outside in the hallway?" And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "I don't want to see Holiday. Holiday will see me doing an interview, and and he scares me." And Matt Adams is a big guy. I said, "Can't you stand up to him?" He goes, "No, he would kill me. I'm terrified of that guy." That's a true story. And we all love Matt Adams.
Was there
Yeah,
was there a
very
question
much.
in that,
And
or you just make a statement?
yeah, I think he just made a statement. That's what he does. He's just trying to
No, I'm
put it out
pointing
there that
out, well,
you
because
scared you scared
no,
Matt Adams so much he was scared to
Well,
do interviews and made
I
Jim's
just
heart
didn't want
beat
anybody
stop
doing
on it.
interviews with you. So basically, I made it known that they had to answer to me if they would entertain your requests. So,
Yeah.
look,
And
look, look.
he made you work for it. He
yeah,
made everyone know that, hey, make Jim work for it because
yeah,
that's what it's all about.
I
He's
don't want to
too
put this
comfy.
out.
You
First
were
of
too
all,
comfy,
yeah.
Jim. That's what he was telling you.
I'm never comfortable. First, I point that out
You were
because
always
Lance, in
comfortable on
fairness,
the flights. You'd sit there and you'd have your snacks and
Oh
you'd eat your
man.
M&Ms, and you would just,
Yeah, everything
I'd
was
try to
great.
get you to come back and hang out with the boys, and you would just, I mean, not even come. I mean, it was just, you were just so
He had his
comfy.
shoes off.
Ah, yeah.
Matt, he had his shoes off on the plane this year, just strolling up and
Oh
down,
my
making his
gosh.
own
Things have
snack
changed.
plate, all that. It's obnoxious because he's at the back of the plane, so you can't see him back there now.
Yeah.
Before you keep your eyes on him. planes changed a little bit. So now he's back there. He's like, oh, I'm hidden back here. I can do what
Oh,
I want. I
you're
run the
back where the
back.
veterans used to be. That's about right.
Yep.
I spent years in psychotherapy just from the times where Lance Lynn or Matt Holliday would yell from the front of the plane, "Cat, get up here!" Okay, that was my biggest nightmare. And then walking up there, like if you didn't let it go and I had to come up, was like a scene from Apocalypse Now, where I knew I was walking into hell. Okay, but the reason I bring up the Matt Adams thing is because Lance, you were trying to make it seem like, no, he would get them gummy bears and pat them on the head. Look, it's a clubhouse, and Holliday ruled the roost. And I brought the whole thing up because there's a lot of folks in the media, and a lot of them are great, but act like they know what's going on in the clubhouse when they're not in the clubhouse. So I agree with everything that you guys have said to this point, except the shots you took at me, because in fairness, the Holliday personality, the Lance Lynn personality came out thanks to Fox and then Bally's and FanDuel now.
Where are we now?
No, because you guys were able to navigate that and show fans your personality, and the fans embrace that. And I think that's the moral of the story, is that media is good.
Whatever that, pat yourself on the back.
Is that what we were doing? I don't know what that
Yeah,
was.
he was.
Is
I
that a
don't know.
monologue?
That was his way of saying you two are welcome for making you guys
Yeah.
making people laugh. That's what I got out of that.
No, actually, to be honest, if I do have a career, you guys made me, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for it. I did want to ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
man.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna see if you still had your what award was it? Your regional, what was it?
It's
Cable.
a regional Emmy,
Oh,
a
right.
regional Emmy.
Yeah. So
It's at my house. It's at my
That's
house.
a
I
that's a
feel
thing.
like Lance and I should have got part of that, or at least,
I agree.
yeah.
No, I take nothing seriously, including my lack of a career. But the good parts, or the parts that have been well received, to be honest, are because of a Lance Lynn and a Matt Holliday. So tip of the cap. Even though Matt did just bring up TMA, the radio show that fired me, that's fine. That's fine too. So, but I did see Matt at opening day, and I did want to ask you about that because it is kind of special. Now, Lance wasn't part of it this year, but what is it about? You've been in other ball clubs, so you'll probably kiss their butts too. But opening day in St. Louis, why is it special?
What did you just say about kissing somebody's butts?
You'll have to say Yankees are great, Rockies are great, but St. Louis is better.
I
It's
mean,
different.
I don't have any problem saying that St. Louis's opening day is is much more there's a lot more pageantry. Obviously, when you have a history of an organization like that, you have a lot more Hall of Famers, and you've got legends like Ozzie Smith, and all the, I don't want to leave anybody out, but all of the great Cardinals that come back every year, and unfortunately some have since passed away, since Lance and I got to experience some of our first opening days, where you've got Red Shandienst and Stan Musial, and some of these, Bob Gibson and Lou Brock and Tim McCarver, and some of these guys that have unfortunately since passed. But yeah, I mean, that's just, a lot of teams don't even have the history to kind of create such an amazing opening day, and have such a history of creating this. It's almost like in St. Louis, it's like a holiday. Like, we got there yesterday at 11 o'clock for a three, it ended up being a 4:30 game, but at 11 o'clock, the streets are packed. There's people everywhere. And this team, the expectations are, probably the lowest they've been in a long time, but the excitement for Cardinal baseball on opening day was still incredibly high. And it is a great event. I mean, like I said, they do a great job of creating an opening day environment. So I if I can make it, I always try to make the opportunities that they give you as a Cardinal Hall of Famer, to get a chance to put the red jacket on and see the guys, and talk to the fellas, and so I always enjoy that. So yesterday was fun. I mean, like, the rain delay wasn't ideal, but we worked through it, and it was, like I said, it was always good to be part of the organization.
What was it like for you as a player, Lance, being part of that?
It's amazing. Like you said, when you're able to play for other organizations, you're able to appreciate the St. Louis, the just everything that it's about. Coming back last year after being gone for a while and having opening days in other cities really made me understand and appreciate it and have that feeling of, man, this is awesome. Opening day in St. Louis with everything that goes on has a very close similarity to like this start of playoffs, to be honest with you. So it gives you that a really good feel. And then obviously when you have all the Hall of Famers and all that there, and you get to see guys that you either, for me, it was like I played with and or like worship growing up. So those things are awesome. And if you truly love the game and truly love the history game, St. Louis opening days, one of the best there is.
So the Cardinals have a lot of question marks. They got a win in the opener. That was great. What do you think this team can be, Lance? You know those guys. You were with them last year. You know the young guys that they're counting on. Just your thoughts on what they may be.
I mean, you're looking at what they may be is you've got a bunch of guys that are younger, but if they've had some experience, they've had some failures at the big league level, and you have to have that to have success. It's everything's easy when you show up and you hit 300 and you have a 2 ERA, right? But it doesn't. These guys last year hopefully went through a lot of inner you know they found themselves, I think, and I'm hoping that for them this year's ability to show it, because they're all very talented. They're all, they've got to. If you look at that lineup and the youth of it, and stuff like that, with the abilities that they have, they got a chance to be really good if things kind of they take that next step, right? I think that was always the thing, is how you going to take the next step. And last year's failures, I think, are going to help them this year take that next step. Not only that, they're going to be able to play. They're going to be able to, go through some things that you aren't looking over your shoulder. You're going to be there every day, and the roster kind of fits for that. And I think that's going to help them as a whole. And pitching staff, they got guys that are got a chance to show what they're about. You look at, some of the younger starters are going to be there. They've really kind of took a step last year. And then obviously the back end with Hells was one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game last year. So, they score some runs and they play defense and, some timely hitting, and get the ball to Helsley at the end, you're going to win games.
What you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously Lance has a lot more insight on who these guys are and sort of what their prospects look like. I think from just afar, or from my perspective, I think this year is going to be an opportunity for guys to either establish themselves as one, cornerstone players. Is Mason Wynn, is Jordan Walker, is Brendan Donovan? Are these cornerstone type players to build around? Are they regulars, everyday players? Are they platoon players? Are they, you get a chance to play. Okay, you're gonna get some leash. You're gonna get to go out and play and play every day. And your name's gonna be the lineup 6 out of 7 games. Like, so you get a chance to go out and establish your career. And like Lance said, some of these guys have enough experience now where it's like time to find out who they are and what they can do. And so they're getting that chance in an organization that, historically has not given a lot of leash to young players. If you're not ready to play, the idea of winning the World Series was such a consistent staple in who the Cardinals are. Okay, well now they've sort of publicly declared this as a reload, rebuild, however you want to say it, opportunity for young guys. So let's see who these guys are. I think that the starting pitching with Sonny Gray and Fetty and Michaelis and Libertor and whoever else, and Mats, whoever else ends up starting the games. If those guys can keep them in the games, which you still have, that's a pretty veteran rotation in my mind. If those guys give you 5-6 good innings, and like Lance said, you have Helsley at the back end. If some of these young players turn out to be, better, or maybe who they think they are, then you might surprise some people. I don't think the NL Central is necessarily a juggernaut. I mean, I don't. I know there's some solid teams. The Reds, seemingly have young talent ready to take the next step, and the Brewers have been very consistent lately and have good players. And I think the Pirates have some pitching, horses. So, but I don't think that it's out of the realm to think the Cardinals couldn't hang around if some of these things kind of go their way, and if Nolan bounces back and has a 280 with 30 and 100 type of season, which he's proven he's capable of, to kind of build that lineup around. I think Nootbaar hit a home run yesterday. I think he has a ton of ability that if he needs to take that next step into the, sort of a middle of the lineup type of hitter. And so that's the only thing I think for me that kind of is where are they going to get their home runs, their thump from? And I think it's going to be interesting to see, if they can hit enough home runs in my mind in this day and age to compete.
Last go round for John Mozeliak, the president of baseball operations. He talked about the emotion yesterday about walking into the ballpark for his last opening day. I know you guys both have good relationships with Mo, and I think sometimes, like other things, are misunderstood by media or fans. I mean, Mozeliak, to be honest, he brought a World Series here, a lot of winning seasons, a lot of really good baseball. Last couple seasons have been rough. But I think his image with the fans, based on the limited stuff they get to see, might be a little askew. So, Lance, tell me what you know about John Mozeliak and what your relationship is like.
I would say Mo's and I relationship has definitely gotten better over the years. Obviously, you look at early on in my career, like Matt talked about early on in your career, there was no like you weren't given things in St. Louis. So when you look at like the young starters or whatever, young players that are just kind of like, hey, we're gonna see what you got. When I was coming up, heck, I think I won 18 games, 15 games, 15 games, and I never showed up to a spring training until I had a guaranteed contract that I was going to be on the team. So that, yeah, it gave you a little bit of edge. But when I look back on it, it really made me understand the sport, and it really made me understand that hey, you got to show up every year and prove that you're a big leaguer and that you're going to be a big leaguer for a long time. So that helped me, and I talked to Mo throughout those years and learned a lot about the game, learned a lot about the business side of things, and he was always straight shooter with me. And like over time, we really learned to respect each other because unfortunately, I was a straight shooter too. I was a little young, but I was going to tell you what I felt. And I think we both end up respecting that and respecting each other for it, and end up having a really good relationship, which is what you need, because you know that you're going to tell each other what you think and the truth, and you're not going to sugarcoat it. And I always respected him for that. And he, like you said, he's put together some good teams and had a lot of great players that came through. And obviously the last couple of years didn't pan out. And it wasn't because he wasn't trying to put together a good team or putting the things on the field. It's just the players didn't perform. Sometimes when the players don't perform, they're when you want to blame the president, the manager, and all that. And the same thing we talked about last week with Ollie. If the players don't play and don't perform, you're going to blame those guys. But it's the 26 guys out there figuring out how to be their best players they can be and also becoming the best team they can be. And he put some good ones on the field over the years.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in that business, in that line of business, you're going to make really good moves and you're going to make ones that you wish you hadn't made. I mean, it's just part of the deal. Like, I guarantee you, if he could go back, he wouldn't have traded Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen. But at the time, you're trying to make the best move to win the World Series currently. And so I think that it's a tough spot. I mean, being a general manager and a president of baseball operations, um, you're trying to manage the future while also trying to win the World Series currently. And so I think that that's been he's obviously had some really good moves and things that have worked out really really well and everybody loved. And then you have some when you're trying to you maybe like you get to a place where you end up giving up something you really don't want to, but you need one more piece to maybe put this current, the current team at the time over the hump, and you have to include somebody that you don't want to include, and it comes back to bite you in the butt. And so that's part of what you signed up for. Um, I think that it's such a what have you done for me lately society these days that, yeah, of course. I mean, the last couple of years have not gone to the expectations of what the Cardinal fans are used to seeing and used to having on the field, and they're used to going to opening day expecting to win the World Series. And for the organization to make the declaration that it needs to start from the bottom with revamping the farm system and some of the things they're doing in Latin America to try to revamp the system to start producing their own players again, and that they're going to take a break from free agency and try to shed payroll. I mean, those are things that fans don't want to hear, particularly Cardinal fans. And so, they obviously are going to connect that to Mo and ownership, and they're going to, be disgruntled about that. And so I like Mo. Mo and I are friends. I think that I'm obviously very grateful for him and Mr. DeWitt for giving me a contract that allowed me to be in St. Louis for 7 years. I'm appreciative of that. I will forever be appreciative of that. So I think he's done a great job, and I think, like I said, I think the job is hard. I think that every great GM has probably been fired, and every great GM has probably made uh, several trades they wish they hadn't made that turned out to be just not good. But I think people tend to point to those way more than they point to the really, really good trades and really, really good drafts or signings that they ended up making that really impacted the organization.
Yeah, I think every GM, president of baseball ops, has a wake littered with bad decisions. If you're making a lot of decisions,
That's a good
and based
point.
on
Who
the
said that?
I just did.
Oh,
That was
felt like
me. I
something I
just said
said.
that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was actually putting it in a way that encapsulated the previous
Oh,
statement.
gotcha.
And probably in a way that was more digestible for the average viewer.
Right.
But I think, and as you point out, rightfully so, the context of when it happens and everything, you can look back on if it doesn't work out, and people point to that. But the point is, it's Cardinal baseball, and people care about it. So when things go wrong, is their right. They can be furious about it and want to hold somebody accountable. Now, if we had a good technical setup, you'd be able to see Lance Lynn, who is svelte, who has lost weight. Lance, are you still holding out the hope that something's going to open up for you possibly pitching this season, or is that ship sailed? Because pitchers are getting hurt all the time.
Yeah, pitchers do get hurt all the time, and where I'm at right now is, I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm still doing everything I need to do to be ready to ramp up and, have some, I'd need a little bit of time, obviously building up and things of that nature. So that's all on the table still. But like we said last week, it's going to come down to place and money. Let's be honest. If the money's not there and the place isn't there, then I'm quite comfortable where I'm at.
So you have a minimum that you're going to
I
pitch
really
for,
wish I could
right?
see Lance.
Well, first of all, sit still, okay?
Hey,
The more you move
Matt.
around, it's not going to help it.
Hey, I've seen Matt. I've seen some of Matt's houses over the day. I've incorporated some of those in my home here, Matt. You'd be
Yeah, I'd
very
like to see
impressed.
that, Lance. That would be great.
You would
It's
enjoy it. You would enjoy
2025. I
it.
mean, typically I could actually be like almost in your living room, but instead I'm staring at
Crazy,
a
isn't it?
black screen with a J on it. So it's amazing.
But the nice thing is we still have audio, and the viewers can see you both, and both of you look handsome. So with Matt Holliday going forward, you are still hoping for a pitching opportunity. You're going to be doing this podcast throughout, even if you get a deal like Gibson did. Matt Holliday has a son to watch, a family to tend to. He's got a young son who's also a rising star, a couple other boys in there too, but also a love for pickleball. And I know that that's something you take deadly seriously. How often do you play the pickleball?
I mean, deadly is a little strong, but I do
No,
like
you
it. I
do.
mean, I play.
I
No,
There's no way it's not deadly because I played you in ping pong back in the day, and knowing you and knowing your personality, you're here to
I
win.
am here to
So
win.
it's deadly.
That
It's
is for
deadly.
sure.
Deadly.
It's not a leisure. It's not a leisure
I
game.
don't
You're here to
do
win.
leisure well. My wife's always
I know.
like, do you really need? I said, look, I need 2 hours a day. I'm going to play pickleball. Okay. I got 22 other ones for anything you need from me, but I'm going to play pickleball for 2 hours a day. And that includes when we travel, and I'm going to find somewhere. So, uh, you look, I'm not as good as I wish I was. I mean, the pros are incredible, but I like to play. I like to practice it. I, my hip is an issue, which is frustrating. Um, so at some point I might have to have a procedure on my hip, which limits my mobility at the net, Jim. A little bit of my side movement on my dink, which is probably something you don't know much about.
Don't know it.
So it's
Lance doesn't either. Lance doesn't play pickleball.
that's okay.
No,
Lance is busy with a
I'm a
career.
golfer.
You,
Yeah.
however, should know, Jim. So I'm not going to talk about my dink too much more. I'm just going to tell you that I do love pickleball. I play a lot. I'm probably not as good as I want to be, but I do enjoy it. So um, thank you for asking. And yes, I'm busy with the kids mostly, but I do find time to play pickleball.
I think
I've
this is a great time for me to ask, since I've got young kids. How do you incorporate like getting them ready to be first overall picks?
I look. I just here's what happened. I was playing Major League Baseball, as you guys know, and they like to go to the field, and they got to be around a lot of amazing players, and they realized that, hey,
You're welcome.
this looks
You're welcome.
fun. Lance Lynn looks like he's having a good time. He looks like that looks fun. We're going to Milwaukee on the plane. Lance looks he's having a blast.
Yep.
That looks fun. Maybe I want to do that. And so they've decided that that's what they want to do. And so they say, Dad, I want to play Major League Baseball. I'm going to play Major League Baseball. And I say, okay, well, you got some things we got to work on. So it's been one of those things where people talk about nature versus nurture, and I think it's both. I mean, I think that God has blessed them with ability. I also think that being around the environment they grew up in and being at the Major League Baseball field and being exposed to some of the best players on the planet's work ethic and what they do, I think that had a huge impact. And so I think it's been a combination of things, but I'm proud. I'm more proud as you guys. I'm more proud of who they are as young men. I mean, they're great young men. They're humble. They're not selfish, and they like to play baseball. You know, they like to be good team. I mean, they love their teammates, and so I'm more proud of who they are as young men than I am their baseball skills. I mean, it's fun to share a hobby or share a passion with your kids. I mean, we both all three of us really love baseball, and we'll see what Reed ends up doing, but it's fun. I mean, I don't think that there's been any, like, I don't have a secret handbook to hand out, but I feel like that um they've been raised in a pretty conducive environment.
how do you?
Jim, I'm going to take over
Yeah.
for a second. You're
No,
welcome.
do it. Yeah.
We're going to carry you again
Yeah,
here.
per usual.
So what I'm gonna say, what I noticed as being your teammate, and I had 6 years with them, like watching them like in the clubhouse every day, which was crazy to when you look back at it, and then you see Jackson in the major leagues now, which I haven't got to face him either. So there was some talk this offseason that we might have been
That would have been
teammates. That would
amazing.
have
I
been
was
pretty
wondering
cool.
if that might not work out.
There was some talks there, but Gibby stole my deal, that dirty dog. Uh, but no, so it's like I was like, all joking aside, like the kids' ability, they loved sports in general. It wasn't like, hey, let's do baseball all day. Matt was never shoving anything down their throat. I remember one All-Star break where I was over at Matt's house. We were playing basketball against those two. Matt and I were playing against them. One of the sons was on my team and one was on his team. So there was always sports all the time. Probably shouldn't have been playing basketball, but we were during the All Star break. I remember, was it Ethan that asked you, "Hey, Dad, why are we not at the All-Star game? I wanted you to be in the home run derby. And you're like, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Like,
sure. Yeah, that's one of the things you get, when they start to understand what's going on. You're, hey, I'm counting on, I want to be. You're affecting my life, Dad, not being where I want you to be. So, yeah, that's
all my friends are at the
yeah,
All-Star game, Dad.
yeah.
What's
What
going
the heck
on?
happened?
I think that's what he said, was it not?
Yeah, I'm sure. So now I get to
Did
ride them a little bit and be like, hey, what's going on? I thought you
There there you go.
did you guard each other in that pickup game? And
Oh yes.
I would like to know the assessment of each other's game.
I think Matt would and I would both say that we were both pleasantly surprised with the other person's game. And you're looking at two guys that are very competitive, as he talked about the pickleball game, and we're both were rather big. So there was some we weren't it wasn't two hand touch. Let's call it that. We were moving and grooving a little bit.
Who would win a one-on-one game? I mean, if
Ooh.
in your peak physical prime, without fear of injury, who would win?
I'd like to take him right now if that hip's sparking like he says it is.
Unfortunately, I think I'm vulnerable to be taken. So my basketball days, in retirement, I was still playing a couple times a week, pickup basketball with some guys in town, and then once my hip started barking, I save all of my hip pain for pickleball. So I think Lance would be in a good spot against me right now, and um, I think that's you got to be careful. Lance is a sneaky, really good athlete. So people don't need to sleep on Lance's athlete. He's not just a big ogre pitcher that can't do anything else. I mean, we got sneaky athlete. So
Yeah, the Indiana in me comes out when basketball court shows up. Let's just put it that way. So it was a good
I want to
match. It was a
apologize for
very
the
good.
dog barking, but this show isn't really that all that professional anyway. So I don't really care.
The first one was,
I
and we
know.
had Kyle
Yeah.
Gibson.
Well, maybe it's
All
me.
right. I just want to know if you're proud of Lance the way he's turned out, because the way you kind of brought him along as the young guy who was the anti do it the right way guy, and look at him now. Now he's a guy who sounds like a guy who could be a general manager, who could be a manager or a pitching coach. Are you proud of Lance?
Of course, I'm proud of Lance. I think. Look, I think that it's always fun to watch guys you played with turn into who they were supposed to be, and just like he's how many years you got now, Lance? I mean, I'm guessing closing on 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, 14.
14 years in the major leagues. I mean, the percentage of people that get to play 14 years in the major leagues is crazy small. So uh you have to do a lot of things right, and you have to do um you have to be a good teammate. Like you don't just get handed 14 years in the major leagues. And so I'm incredibly proud of him as a like I said, as a husband and a father, and then getting a chance to be a leader on teams now, and being thought of as a guy that people want as a veteran leader and presence, and be a good impact on younger guys. And I think that's awesome. I mean, like I said, 14 years in the big leagues, um, several, playoffs, World Series. It's been an amazing career. I mean, I don't. He had a great year last year. If you look at the numbers, I mean, I'm surprised that he doesn't have people beating down his door to come out and eat innings, and to give teams chance to win. I mean, um, like I said, I watched the Orioles very closely, obviously with Jackson, and I know they signed Kyle, but I was thinking, my gosh, what are teams, what are they doing? Why there's good pitchers out there that can give you a chance to win. So yeah, really proud of them.
Well, use your connections and get him a
I
gig.
don't really have any. I don't have any connections anymore. Skip's, he's just a consultant. Skip's really
Yeah.
he's my only connection. So Oh,
Yeah, Skip did no use for me. They ended up signing Corbin for 1 million. I was like, come on, Skip.
yeah.
Yeah, Schumacher's done. We're done with him on this
He would
podcast. I
not
have
come on
one
here
last.
anyways. So
Yes, he
no, he
would.
wouldn't.
He will be. I
No
guarantee.
chance. Zero chance.
He will
I
come
mean, if
on.
Lance and I
Let's put
ask
a
him, but if we tell him you're
let's put a
involved,
wager.
he won't.
We would have to be here for
Yeah.
sure, and you'd have to be like very
Yeah.
memorable speaking.
Okay, well, first off, since you can't see each other, I have to interject because I would love
Right.
it if you guys
Right.
would cut
It
me
is
out.
hard. It is hard
And
to work a podcast with three people without being able to see each other. You make a good point.
uh, uh, right. So
That's how good Matt and I
That's a
are.
good
We're
point.
making it work.
Yeah.
no, you guys the best parts are where you guys talk to each other and leave me out. That's fair, but it's
That's our
also
plan. We just needed you
it's
to set up this awesome video system, and then eventually we'll take over.
yeah. I'd set up the bad technical
Yeah.
aspect. I have one last question. Okay, I don't have much more time, but I did want to hear from you
I
on
had
this
more time
because
until it took 30 minutes to get the setup going.
I know, but this is the last topic we're going to hit because I'm just curious. You guys are players. So I think right now, baseball is in a really good place, okay? Except for the fact that the Dodgers, New York teams have all the money to spend. I still think if you put some money in, you can compete with anybody. Obviously, there's talk of a salary cap and a possible shutdown after this season, which wears me out because we haven't even just barely started this season. Where are you guys on that? What baseball should do in regard to this collective bargaining agreement that they have to come to some sort of resolution?
Go ahead, Lance. I'll let you go
Madam,
first. You have you.
you want me to
Yeah,
go
you're
first? All right.
currently playing.
Well, so you got to be a little bit more politically correct because your sons are coming
Right.
up,
Yeah.
right? For me, I like I might be I might be on my way out, and my son's a long time away, so people will forget what I say
Nobody
by
listens
then.
to
It'll
this
all be
anyway,
done.
so go ahead.
Nobody, yeah, nobody. I think that you think baseball is in a good spot. I think baseball is in a terrible spot and all the way around. I love the game. I think the game is there's a lot of good things going on in the game. Don't get me wrong, but I think, like you said, with the Dodgers, I think all other owners are using the Dodgers as a way to try to force the salary cap and try to show fans that, hey, look, we need a salary cap because we can't do this, this, and this. I think it's a planned way to do things, and I also think that it's their way of trying to manipulate the players to try to get involved in this because players like myself don't have jobs because either teams are up against the luxury tax and or teams aren't spending money because they want it to be obvious that there should be a salary cap in their mind, but they never talk about floors. They never talk about anything. They already talked about how the fact that they're not going to negotiate at all, they're just going to lock players out. So all in all, it's not in a good spot. They've already told us they're going to lock us out. They already told us what they're going to try to do, and they're not going to negotiate. They're pretty much trying to bully the players, and they're trying to make the fans see their side of things because of what the Dodgers have been able to do. And if the Dodgers can do it, there's some other teams that can do it that aren't doing it. So all in all, that's my opinion, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Good. That's good. What is yours?
Yeah, look, Lance is obviously has more on the inside of what the owners are up to, and he has privy to meetings that the union has and things that I don't anymore. But I think from the game standpoint, I think there's a lot of really fun, really good players, really exciting players, great players for kids to watch. So from the standpoint of the health of the player and the play, I think it's in a really good spot. I think that there's, like I said, I think there's young superstars that are likable, that are marketable. Um, I think Lance knows more about the landscape of what the owners are going to try to do after this season. I think it's a devastating move to try to go full lockout, um, willing to lock them out, willing to miss part of the season to try to get this salary cap, based on the fact that the Dodgers are doing this, but they still may not win the World Series. Like I don't think, at least in baseball, that doesn't guarantee you a championship. And so, um, I don't. I hope that it doesn't come to any sort of work stoppage because that's never good for the players or the fans. But I do think that the players over the years have fought to keep no salary cap, and we have stayed united as a union, and holding strong for the next generation. I think I don't know all the numbers financially, but I do know that teams are selling and being offered to be sold at incredibly record-setting numbers. So these owners are capable of selling their organizations for 8, 9, 10x of what they paid. And so I can't imagine that the game is in too bad of shape from a financial situation if you can sell your asset for many times more than what you paid for it. Now, yearly, if you're in the red a little bit because attendance is down or your local TV contract is not as quite as good as it used to be, but you're somehow the value of the organization is continuing to climb. And if you need to sell, then sell. Like if you need the money, then sell it. And so I don't know what to make of all of it other than to say that it'll be an interesting after the season of how this all unfolds.
I like it. That was actually smart talk from two guys that I got to listen to. And we're going to leave it there because I know both you guys have things to do. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lance.
I would love to be able to see Lance next time, just for the record. It makes it a little
We will.
easier. Plus,
I promise we will fix it out. Lance,
Maybe a different
I
platform.
don't know. There's lots of options. I've had
We're-
really good
It's great.
success
we
with several
will
options.
straighten it out, and I promise things will get better on the next edition
Hey,
of Serving
you
It
know,
Up. It won't
Jim,
be
I
awful.
might be able to
Yes.
get Matt Carpenter to come on. We may not need you. If we get Carp and Lance and I, we could probably just carry it.
Be heads up. Be heads up, Jim.
Yeah.
I got to go now and talk to my attorney because we're gonna have to litigate that. Boys, thank you, and we'll see you next time on Serving It Up.